Welcome to Primetime, everybody. I'm your host, Hunter Chambliss, and we are doing our 61 Days of Halloween special. I'm joined by my co-host, Chad and Carrie. How's it going, guys?
It's going great. This is a daunting task that we have ahead of us. It's funny because Carrie and I did this last year where we did a 61 days thing, but this was like right when we had like a newborn baby and we were trying to watch a lot of movies but like we didn't have like a set like films that we were gonna watch. We were just like, let's just watch whatever we want. Just make sure we watch 61 things. And then we were trying to record videos and stuff like that. And it just, we just didn't really have a lot of time to do all of that stuff. But now we're doing it with Hunter. And we get to, we have like a whole list that we're doing that's going to take all September and October to accomplish. But we decided to go through the decades. We started in the 1930s and we're going to go all the way to the 2020s. You guys know how we are with decades. We love going through the different decades and finding movies that we haven't really seen a lot of. And so we went through and we picked ones that we haven't seen or haven't seen in a while and wanted to, go through them. And today we're going to talk about our 1930s. And I have a little bit of a video to show you what's in our list. So this is the list.
Fun.
And so you can see we have a lot of like 30s, 40s, going through the 50s and the 60s now, and then into the 70s. And we tried to find ones that weren't like super known about, and then some that are, but we haven't really talked about on the show. And just some that are just really good and stuff like that. And then, as always, we're going to end with Halloween. We didn't have room for because Carrie and I would always watch Hocus Pocus as well, but we didn't really have room to put that in the proper bracket. But we might watch that anyways and talk about that when we talk about Halloween, because we are going to do a live stream where we like talk about Halloween, maybe go over our overall ranking of the 61 movies, and so we have big plans. We'll see how much we actually get through, but we're not going to spend a ton of time on each movie. Just maybe discuss any likes and dislikes of each movie, and then at the end we'll just give our individual rankings of the films. So each time it's going to be 6 movies. 6 per decade until we get to the 2020s, and then end with Halloween. So, without further ado, we can go, and we have an order. So we're gonna go ahead and start with the first movie, which is Frankenstein, and we will go ahead and start with Hunter.
So I watched this movie for the first time a few years back. This is the second time I went back and rewatched it. It just keeps getting better and better every time I rewatch it. From the acting, especially from Victor, and kind of seeing him kind of go insane with like power and with like wanting to create life and what that does to somebody, to the sympathy that you feel for Boris Karloff's monster, from not wanting to be born to kind of understanding like what it is to be alive, to then him killing the little girl and feeling really bad about it. And the movie does a great job at not really making Frankenstein's monster the villain, but making him misunderstood, that I really love. And it's not just, oh, he's a big monster, let's kill him. It's the mob has no idea what's going on. They see a monster who killed a girl, so they're going after him. You kind of get both ends of the spectrum, which I love. The score is incredible. This movie, overall, I really, really love this movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Frankenstein is a classic for a reason. In high school, I actually read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the original book, and that one's really interesting. It's written in a very old kind of style, so it's very deep. and has a lot of like language that we don't really use today, I feel like, or just a lot of like, you know, metaphors and stuff like that. But it's interesting because in the book, I believe the Frankenstein's monster is intelligent, and he like actually has like conversations and like, you know, talks to people and stuff, and you get to know more about what his thoughts are. And this, you know, he's very I don't want to say one dimensional, but he's very like, you know, on the childlike side, where he
Mhm.
doesn't understand a whole lot. You know, he doesn't really even understand. He's just trying to play with the little girl, ends up
Yep.
throwing her in the water, and I guess she can't swim at all in that little bit of shallow water that he throws her into, because she just drowns immediately. But yeah, and then, you know, the town kind of comes after him. But yeah, I love this movie, and how directed by James Whale, by the way. I forgot to say, the
Mhm.
great James Whale, who actually directed another movie we're going to cover in this slate. But
Yep.
he, I'm sorry, the way that Frankenstein, which he's Henry Frankenstein in this, I believe,
Mhm.
which is, he's not Victor. Victor's actually his brother or something, I think.
Yeah.
Which is just a really interesting thing, because, you know, we all know Victor, we all know Igor or Igor or whatever. They make a joke about that, young Frankenstein. But in here, it's Fritz. And yeah, so I love the themes of, should you play God? You know, if you can, should you?
Mhm.
You know, what would come of that? You know, how far should we take science? What, like, yeah, like, how far should humanity go? And
Mob justice as well.
you know, mob justice is a really good thing. We see that in a lot of stuff, like going to like Beauty and the Beast and stuff like that. I'm not sure if we got that in like the French Beauty and the Beast from like the 20s or whatever it was. But the other thing that I really like about this movie is something that I am trying to remember, to be honest. If it comes to me, I'm going to let Carrie go, and then I will bring it up if I remember.
Okay. Yeah, I think like you guys said, this is a classic for a reason. And yeah, Hunter, you hit on one of my favorite parts about this movie, which is that, and I think we forget, because like, I think we all just watched this for the first time a few years ago, but we all grew up with like the lore of, you know, when you're a kid, Frankenstein is the monster.
Mhm.
And like you said, Hunter, this movie I think does a really great job of showing Frankenstein's monster as misunderstood,
Mhm.
and the villain is more Frankenstein himself, the creator, and how he
Mm-hmm.
abandons his creation and everything. So yeah, really an excellent movie at like threading that needle. I think one thing that Chad and I noticed this watch around that was really funny was the scene in Young Frankenstein with the brains, where it's the normal brain and the abnormal brain. I mean, that is directly taken from the first movie. It is the normal brain and the abnormal brain, and he drops the normal brain and has to get the abnormal one. And it's hilarious. I don't know. I don't remember noticing that the first time I watched this. So that was a really fun part of
That
this.
was actually the part that I was trying to remember.
Yeah,
Because
it
it was one that we noticed and like had a really good time laughing at because we were like, we think of like these classic monster movies as like dry and like drama and just serious, and you forget that sometimes there's actual like humor and comedy in them. And you know, it's like Young Frankenstein didn't actually have to work that hard sometimes, because
No,
here
the
you had
humor is right there.
yeah, you had the normal brain and the abnormal. I think all they changed was they named the brain Abby normal or something like that. Which is, I don't even know if that's funnier. I think it might be funnier in this one. But yeah, I think this movie is great, and I just wanted to add that I think I might like Bride of Frankenstein a little bit better. So I would love to cover that maybe next year. But Carrie, I cut you off.
No, I was done.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, Carrie, if Carrie's done on Frankenstein, then we can move on to the next one, which is M. Fritz Lang's M. Speaking of Fritz, we got another Fritz here with Fritz Lang. Yeah, I guess I'll start with this one. This was actually a rewatch for me, just like Frankenstein was. I had also seen that one before. But this one, I really liked the first time, and I really like it this time as well. I think it's just one of those great, like, pieces of cinema, like a great, like, serial killer drama that turns like horror because it's, it's just a horrific scenario, and it's just like about, and also like Peter Lorre in the movie looks really crazy, and so it's just like really tense thriller about this town that's plagued by a monster, and it's some guy that just keeps taking children, killing them, and it's really dark. But then you have the police who are trying to track and trace this guy, and apparently it's not enough because you have all the criminals who are like, we also need to go and find this guy, which the police don't know about. And so you have like this long, like middle section of the film where this guy's just on the run, and you got people chasing him and trying to figure out how to catch him, but they keep like catching the wrong people, and they're like, "Why are you talking to that little girl in the road?" And he's just like, I was just saying hi. And they're like, "Yeah, that's that's suspicious, or as sus, as we would say today." And I'm not saying the movie's humorous. I'm making it humorous, I guess. But because it is a really dark movie. But what I love about this movie in particular is, I don't know, I think there's a lot of great slow burns, and I think this is one because it's one that like leads up to, I think, one of the greatest endings of a movie is this one where they all catch Peter Lorre's character, and they have him on like a trial. It's like an unsanctioned trial. What do they call it? Kangaroo court. And so they're all, and I think like when they first showed the trial, it was like a pan across a bunch of people just sitting there, and I was like, Harry, I think that might be a picture that they took, and they're just panning across the picture. And Carrie was like, no, I saw one of those people move. But, they were all like that still if it wasn't a picture. Just kind of like glaring at this guy and just hating him and being like, you can't be allowed to exist. Like you're a child murderer. We have to kill you, and we're criminals, so we're going to do it. And, he has like a whole thing where he pleads for his life and pleads and says, you guys are criminals by choice. I can't help what I do. I have this like thing in my head that makes me do this, and I don't know how to stop it. And it's like a compulsion. Kind of like, Norman Bates in Psycho. And so it's just like a thing in his head that kind of stops him. And he's like, I should go to jail. You don't get to kill me. And what I love about that is, of course, this guy is a monster. He's wrong for everything that he does. But when we look at like society, like social morality, where we wonder like, what is the job of the people? What is the job of the society and the government? And should we be in charge? Like we talked about playing God in Frankenstein, but we also like think about playing God here, whereas like who gets to decide who is going to die? And if we kill this child murderer, are we also just as bad as him because we're killing someone too? And who gets to decide? The people, the government, anyone? And I like how it ends with him being captured by the police. And I think all the criminals get caught and arrested too for like being vigilantes or whatever, I guess, or just being criminals. I don't know.
Like they also have like tons of criminal history. So
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think the monologue or whatever that we get from Peter Lorre at the end, I just think is so great. I mean, he's just one of the great actors that I love when I watch older movies, especially like noir movies. like the Maltese Falcon and stuff. He's in, and he's in like Arsenic and Old Lace. He's just such a great actor. He's got that weird like kind of like creepy look about him a little bit, and he plays those kind of off characters like Master, kind of a deal like he does in Arsenic and Old Lace. But here he plays like a total creep, but I don't know, like in a weird way, even though he's a big child murderer, you kind of feel sorry for it. Like you don't want to see these other people kill him, or at least I didn't. Or maybe that's the one big thing about the movie is you get to decide how you feel. Is maybe you want them to kill him, but for me, I was like, no, I want to see him go to jail and never get out. But sorry, I went on a little long, but I had a lot of thoughts. Carrie, what do you think about him?
Yeah, this was the first watch for me. I really, really loved this movie. I thought it was so interesting. I thought it was interesting, like how towards the beginning of the movie, when it still hasn't been revealed who the killer is yet. You see the people in the town start to turn on each other and start to blame each other really quickly and take these little tiny things. I love that this movie talks about how witness statements are all over the place and aren't reliable. For a night, like we still put way too much weight on witness statements of things people just didn't see well enough to remember. And like that, the fact that this 1930s movie addresses that is incredible. I think I thought Peter Lorre, was fantastic. He was so creepy, but yeah, that end monologue I thought was really fantastic. Just the issues that this movie brings up about crime and why people commit crime and how they should be punished and the different perspectives you get. I mean, you really get the criminal's perspective. You get the perspective of the mothers of the victims. Because I think every time you kind of start to feel sorry for Peter Lorre, you get a jump back to the mothers of the victims or the women who are representing the mothers of the victims. I thought this movie was like so fascinating and something I really wouldn't have expected to see from this time period.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure if Peter Lorre was nominated for an Academy Award, but I would have given it to him. I thought he did fantastic with like his like in monologue and stuff. But also, I just wanted to add the black and white cinematography in this. I think was so good. Like the way it was like made was just really impeccable. I thought it's like a best picture level type of movie. I felt like with that, but because some of these other movies weren't so lucky as to be like shot really well.
Yeah.
So. Hunter.
All right, so I watched about the first 40 minutes of this and then had to watch other movies and then like did not have time. So I went back and I went to the end and watched the end monologue and the ending of the movie. So I'm missing about, a quarter of the middle, but the beginning I really love. I love how it starts off slow, kids playing, outside, everything seems normal. Then you slowly start getting into the story of like, oh, okay, this is why we have to have people actually watching their kids because you don't know where kids are going to go. You don't know, who's, randomly going to walk up and just walk off with your child. Like that opening really, like, I'm not a parent, but, you guys are parents. So, just imagining someone just walking off with your child, I can't imagine that fear just instantly for you guys, because like you never know what could happen. So that's a good way to open it up. Again, another movie that talks about, taking the law into your own hands and vigilante justice, which we, talked about in Frankenstein. I like how those two kind of have that kind of tie in with each other.
A parallel. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
Because, it's all about, like, how far can we go with just the courts and when is it, too far for us, as just citizens going after somebody. Um, I love the idea of, as Carrie said, the witness statements and how sometimes they can be used for good, but sometimes, a lot of people, especially in stressful situations, can't remember a lot of details correctly, and that we still put a lot of pressure on witnesses to give their statements, even though it may be fuzzy because some people, run away. Some people are just, in high intensity situations. They're not going to have a clear picture of somebody who's watching from far away, who's not in the actual situation. That in monologue is fantastic. I really, really love that monologue. Um, and again, I like how you can side with the criminals and you can side with, no, we're not side, but you can see where the lawyer is coming from in the situation where it's like, you guys are criminals. You don't get to, just kill this man because that's what we have laws for. That's what we have the justice system for. Like, and then also the idea of, if you guys love comics, it's the old idea of why does Batman keep capturing Joker only for him to end up in Arkham Asylum to then escape and kill more people? That's the side of the criminals. It's like, it's an endless loop of like, well, he gets put into the asylum and then he gets put right back out to kill more kids. So it's like, it's the idea of, do we just kill him and get him just completely off? But then they're also criminals because they're murdering somebody. It's the idea of which one is not better, but which one is the right way to go about the situation, which I love.
Yeah, I mean it's a very complex situation. That's why I think it is a very good movie that covers a lot of it. I mean, then you also have to figure out if you got the right person. I mean, the guy's sitting there confessing to it, but that doesn't necessarily mean he did it. Sometimes people confess to stuff that they didn't do, and it's just, that's another factor that you have to consider. And that's exactly why just Joe Schmo off the street or Joe Schmo criminal off the street shouldn't just go around killing people because they thought they did something. So, but yeah, great points all around. Sometimes, we might not get to every single movie like all the way through. I mean, I hope we can, but hopefully Hunter will go back and give this one a viewing all the way through. But it seems like felt like you got the gist of it at least, which is really good. So we can move on to the next movie, and if Carrie wants to, she can start with Dr. X.
Yeah, this one was okay. It fits a lot of, we have a few movies on here. I think some are better done than others of these like very early techno horror movies where it's talking about science and how far is science going, and kind of dealing with the fears of scientific progress. So this one is about, oh my gosh, I'm trying to even remember the setup. There's murders happening, and it's basically a whodunit, but with a horror twist. The person who did commit the murders has like scientifically transformed themselves in a way that makes them able to commit the murders without suspicion. I don't want to like give too much away because I don't know how much this one has been seen by people. I don't want to necessarily spoil some ones that haven't been super seen by people. But this one to me, it was okay. It was interesting. It was a fine, like watchable movie. I don't know if I'd really come back to it again. There were some parts of it that I thought kind of dragged, a lot of like, investigating people over and over again. So yeah, overall interesting, but not my favorite of this group.
Yeah, and I also do want to add that we may talk spoilers about some of these movies because we watch them and we do want to get to the endings, especially if they're impactful or something like that. So what I'm probably going to try to do is throw in like chapters so people can just like skip to another movie that they have seen, or if they don't care, they can like watch, but they can at least know that there's kind of like a blanket like spoiler warning a little bit. But you can talk about as much as you want or as little as you want, guys. It's not a big deal. But yeah, great thoughts there. Let's move on to Hunter.
So I actually really enjoyed this movie. It's the lead actor. I'm not going to give him shit because it is 30s acting, but he's got this kind of theatrical, like jokey delivery that I find kind of charming and kind of funny. He's like a wisecracking, like private investigator. Or no, he's not a private investigator. He works for the newspaper, correct? Yes.
I think so. No, I think he's an investigator.
Is he?
Yeah, there's a newspaper guy, but he's kind of like at the periphery of things.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
he's a doc. You mean the doctor, Doctor?
No,
Yeah.
Lee Taylor.
Yeah, he's an investigator, I think. No,
Yeah.
he might be a reporter. I don't know.
Daily World News Shank. Lee Taylor.
Yeah, he's a reporter.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I like his kind of quippy, over the top delivery. I really had fun with the whodunit because you're set. Again, spoilers. You're set in this kind of one, scientific building, like this school, and you've got like these different professors who could be the killer, and they give them like each one of them I could believe is the killer, which I love. It's like it's not just one person who is obviously him. I felt like there was like at least 2 or 3 that they gave reasonable suspicion of. Well, maybe it could be them for this reason or this for that reason. I love the end twist of, I'm not gonna say twist. It is kind of funny that the guy who is studying cannibalism is the cannibal serial killer. So, it's great parallels there. But I love what he does. He takes like people's skins and like makes a mask scientifically. I love how that big reveal is done. It's like he puts the paste on it and then he like dunks his head and just comes out with this this mask mold that looks kind of interesting to say the least. I don't know. I had fun with this one. Not the best one that I've watched, but definitely one that I would recommend if you haven't seen it to go watch it.
Yeah. Also, if you've seen Rocky Horror Picture Show, science fiction double feature. Yeah, so Dr. X I thought was interesting. There is a good portion of it that I found like a little dull, like with the kind of pacing a little bit where I don't know, maybe I just wasn't too into the mystery until they actually like told us what it was. And then I was like, oh, okay, that is kind of interesting actually. And you mentioned the his mask that he makes. I think it kind of reminds me a little bit of how Darth Sidious looks in Star Wars.
Yeah.
After his face gets all messed up, his unlimited power. But yeah, I really like the whodunit aspect of it. I really like the science aspect of it because it's just as soon as you find out who did it, the guy's like, synthetic flesh, and he says that over and over and over as he's making the hands, as he's pouring stuff on his face, and he's like and then you get the bzz, bzz, bzz with the science and the gadgets and the whirring and the lightning bolts of electricity everywhere, and it's just like really cool. And I'm like, this is like one of like the OG like science fiction movies, and it just happens to be a really cool horror movie too, with the killer, and there's a plot there's been a murder, and a cannibal has been doing it or something like that, and I don't even know if he was actually eating people. I think he was just tearing them up to make his like synthetic flesh or whatever. And they just maybe thought he was a cannibal or something. I don't know. But really cool ending. I think that was probably my favorite part. Although I will say, and I don't know if there's another version of this, but the one that we watched was kind of like really bad Technicolor. So
So
like
that
think about
there's
how the
a black
wizard.
and white version directed or done by another cinematographer, and then I
Okay,
think the widely available one is the Technicolor.
so we watched the two color Technicolor one,
Mhm.
and that version. I mean, it didn't look terrible, but it just did not look good. It's one of those where it's like you see the Wizard of Oz and it blows you away, and this one you're like,
To be
nah,
fair,
it's
though, Wizard of
not the
Oz
Wizard
came
of
out, I
Oz.
think,
A little later,
7
you're
years
right. You're right.
later.
That's a great point. This was a trial and error type of thing, I guess, with the
Mhm.
Technicolor. But I would love to rewatch this down the road, um, in the black and white,
Mhm.
and then also Return of Doctor X. But apparently, it has like nothing to do with this one or something like that. I
I didn't
think.
even know that was a thing.
Hold on, someone prominent, Return of Doctor X, plays Doctor X in it, and I was surprised. 1939, and it stars Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big name. I knew. I was like, I knew it's a big name as Doctor X and Return of Doctor X, but he
That's
does not play
awesome.
Doctor X in the original Doctor X. But yeah, I think most of us are pretty whelmed with this one. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff with it, but I don't think any of us really loved it. So yeah, we can move on to, and I just want to, throw in a disclaimer. The tagline for this movie is not politically correct at all, but and Carrie should know what I'm talking about because we discussed this. Um, but it does play into the themes of the movie and certain language that you might hear in the movie as well. But it's a movie I really like. So, Freaks, Todd Browning's Freaks.
I
And
see what you
then,
mean. I
yeah,
I
yeah,
never fully read the tagline for this movie.
yeah. Carrie's once said that she tried to study taglines and she's ran over that and she was like, I don't want to study that one. But
But I didn't
Hunt,
want to make a flashcard, a publicly available
that's
flashcard on it.
that's right. Hunter, you can start with this one.
All right, so this is my favorite of the bunch that I've watched. Um, I don't know. I like the idea of because this is also James Well as well. This is a James Well.
It's Todd Browning, right?
Is it Todd Browning?
It's
Yes,
Todd Browning, yeah.
that's right. Sorry about that. Yeah, yes, it's
All
a
right.
Todd Browning film. I love the idea that he took these quote unquote freaks, like these sideshow acts, and gave them character development where you kind of care about each one of them. And then the idea of this community, this family, where if you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. This kind of, you know, this woman comes in and, you know, she starts seeing this dwarf in the, who's like, I'm guessing he's like one of the money makers because he has a lot of inheritance coming.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but she's using him for his money, and he doesn't see that. He just sees this, you know, beautiful woman who's coming on to him. But you notice a lot of other people starting to notice, oh, there's something up with her. And I love that it feels like a community coming together to stop these people from doing this evil act of just using somebody for their money. Like, you don't care about them. You don't care about, you know, that person, you care about the money. And I love that. I love the scene after the wedding where she calls them all freaks, and he's like, "You're embarrassing me," and like, you know, they're all drunk, and you know, this really really sad moment. But then the ending is really good. I really found a lot to connect with this movie. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think I might have saw a nod from Carrie, but this might unanimously be the favorite because I also love this one. Oh, Carrie's staying quiet here. But I love this one. This is definitely my favorite of the bunch as well. I just I don't know. It's just like the way he shot everything, the way he used like circus performers that you know seem just like really strange and weird at first, like when you first like see someone that has like no limbs or
Mhm.
just, and I hate to use the word pinhead, but that's kind of like how they were referred to. I don't know like what the correct term is, but like that type of deformity. And then you of course you have like the little people and stuff like that, and just to see all of these characters become like actual characters and people that you can identify with, and I feel like you don't get a look into that world too often. I mean, even if you look at like American Horror Story, that did a whole season on something like this, those are all actors with makeup, and so these are like real people that he got to be in the movie. And I just think that's so cool to see, but also like not, it's interesting because the movie's called Freaks, but the message is that they're not, or that whatever makes them different makes them special and unique, and that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing. And they all come together and they have like a family, like a found family. And so it's not just a troop of freaks, it's like a family of people that just want to live and just be just like us. I love the gooble gobble gooble gobble one of us scene. Is like so cool, but then yeah, it turns into the whole thing where it ends with her rejecting them, and all they're doing is trying to like welcome her into their family. And it's like, you're a circus performer just like us, and we just want to welcome you here, because they don't push away people. She might be seen as like normalized in society because she's the big lady, she's just like a regular person or whatever, and yet she's the one that's rejecting everyone else, and they're the ones that are like, no, come and join us, just hang out with us, whatever. And so and then yeah, just the performances from god, let me look up their names, because uh Carrie and I were just like talking about these actors were so freaking good, like they deserve some sort of like Academy Award. Harry Earls and Daisy Earls, they're like brother and sister, they're like the little people in the thing that played like husband and wife. And just like see him like uh fawning over this big woman, just doing whatever she said, giving her money and stuff, and just, being so smitten that he would just do all this, or being a simp, I guess you would call him. And then having her be really, really upset and rejected, not just because, they're married and he's fawning over another lady, because she says, I just want you to be happy, but because she knows it's not a good road he's going down. And so, yeah, there's just a lot to this movie. It's very short, but they pack in so much drama. Like, it's only like a horror film for a while, I think, because of, you know, maybe the shock of seeing, like, in like this black and white, like, people that you don't normally see on screen. But then, of course, the ending becomes like really, really horrific.
Cleopatra and a chicken just somehow get
Yeah,
formed together.
I was like, "What just happened?" But it's like really funny because they all are on the train, and the main character there gets up from the bed because he's like being poisoned by her,
Yeah,
and then
Hans.
he's like, "Yeah, Hans, thank you." Hans gets up and he's like, give me the little bottle. I know like what you're putting in the drink. And then
My favorite part of this scene, sorry for interrupting you, they pan over and you see his friend has a switchblade.
yeah, I was just about to get to that. He
He's
like
like,
shink with the blade, and the other one pulls out a gun, a little gun. You're like, oh my god, it's getting serious. But yeah, there's a lot to this movie, and it kind of deserves its own like full episode, because I think it's very, very good. But Carrie, talk
Yeah,
about Freaks.
this was this was a rewatch for me. I'd seen this movie, gosh, probably like almost 15 years ago now, 10, 15 years ago. It's the first time I rewatched it since then. It is, like you guys said, it is an amazing movie. I think the acting is phenomenal. I think the approach here, where I think in the end, like the villain and the person who is the freak is the person who is trying to manipulate and use the people around her. So, and I think, like you guys said, the characters in this movie are so well developed, it's a classic for a reason, and I think it is just a really phenomenal film.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one that I could see myself returning to. Sorry, go ahead, Hunter. What's up?
I love the character of Ferrazzo, played by Wallace Ford, the clown.
Oh yeah.
Frozzo.
Yes. Sure. Just because there was a scene where he was talking to these twins, and you see how much he actually cares about his family, his found family, and you're like, this guy's awesome. Because when Venus, she does break up with Hercules, right? That's the one.
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
He's the first one to come in and talk to her, kind of seeing her point of view as well. And then you get a lot of the scenes where, like, he's in the tub. He's trying to come up with different, like, new jokes and stuff. But you see, he really does care about, this band of freaks, this band of, this family that he made. And I just wanted to give a, shout out to Wallace Ford for that performance. Yeah. One more thing on Freaks real quick before we move on. I like that Todd Browning took the use of freaks, and instead of making the circus performers the villain just like everyone else would, he made them the heroes, and he made the beautiful, the beautiful woman the villain instead of being the heroine or the damsel in distress. He made her the villain. But also, I kind of hate the fact that when this movie came out, it kind of ruined Todd Browning's career for a little while, to the point where, like, no major studio wanted to make a movie with him because he dared, make this movie about people that are different.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, also, it's so interesting that we're talking about 1930s movies that we can just go like, yeah, I mean, I've seen other stuff, but no, you haven't, because this was like towards the beginning of film itself.
Yeah.
And so that's just like so interesting great point to see that, like, kind of subversion that Hunter pointed out. It was something I was thinking about earlier, but just Hunter put it so well. So yeah. But let's move on to White Zombie. It's an interesting poster. And who's starting with this one?
Yeah.
Me. Okay. I didn't really care for this one all that much. I think this might have had the worst cinematography, I think. It looked really bad.
Like, it had smears for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is, like, apparently very influential. I know Rob Zombie, like, took a lot from this movie. His, like, whole band name is named after this movie and stuff.
Really? Like, named
White
after
Zombie. Yeah, that's his band.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I knew that. I didn't know it came from this movie.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I think the story is actually not that bad. I like how it's like couple goes to Haiti. They see that there's a whole, like, zombified, like, plantation that's happening. You got this, like, doctor who's turning everybody into zombies, and they're doing all the labor at the plantation. And then you have this couple, and then someone there that I think owns the plantation, works on the plantation, falls in love with her and wants her to be his wife, and so they do a plan to, like, turn her into a zombie, and then she is that way, and then her husband thinks she's dead or something, and then but then the guy who wanted her to be his wife ends up going back on and actually like helping her, and then the young couple is able to live at the end and stuff. And then the people who perpetrated the crime to, like take away her agency and all that. And yeah, they die and everything. So I think ultimately it is a pretty well written like story. I just don't think it looked very good. I don't think it was very interesting to watch as a movie. I don't think the story was like executed particularly well. And also I just think it's weird. I don't know, like putting it like in Haiti with like a plantation and kind of like a slavery overtones. It just feels like kind of problematic in a way. And I just don't, it just gave me weird vibes. Like I could see that story because I do think it's a good, well written story. I could see that story being put in a different way where it's not like, I think like, George A. Romero was able to do this like way better later on.
by accident.
Yeah, but it's like I don't know. I think this could have been done way better. But there's a lot of great ideas in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's all, Carrie.
Yeah, I agree with you. This was I think my least favorite of the bunch. And yeah, part of it did have to do with the cinematography, but I think it's also of these. I think it might be the weakest story, actually, and maybe some of the, I don't know, weaker filmmaking overall. I think the rest of these movies kind of are on a different level than this one. And I'll say on a positive note, Bela Lugosi is really fun in this, and he's just like
yeah.
Bela Lugosiing it up, and like that's fun. So I would say that's the best part of this movie.
Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Hunter.
I agree. This is my least favorite of the ones we watched. We're on the same page there. I couldn't get into the story all the way. I mean, I watched this one like fully paid attention. It didn't connect with me for some reason. It again, it also looks very bad. Like the black and white, and then the smear, like it looks like a smear on the camera where you can barely see what's going on. It didn't work. But Lugosi does a very good job for what he's given. I do like that he played both in a movie about a vampire and a movie about a zombie in pretty much the same year. Because this is 31, right? Oh, 32, I'm sorry. So a year after, so he was Dracula in 31, and then 32 he was he played this character. I couldn't get into it. The story seems kind of like basic to me. It's like, oh, let's turn this woman into a zombie. Let's pretty much not use her for, a lot of the movie. And then, she's catatonic for most of the movie. And then she gets one line at the end of the movie. And then it's supposed to be, and the ending of this movie, ending with a joke about having a light for a smoke, kind of calling back to the beginning. Like, I don't know why they used that connection to end the film. So yeah, this is definitely the least enjoyable one that I watched.
Yep, definitely. All right, so we'll go to our final one, which is The Invisible Man, the original The Invisible Man. And we're ending on Carrie, I think, to start, right?
Yeah. This one is good. Again, a classic for a reason. Not my personal favorite, though. I think maybe it's because we just watched The Hollow Man 2, which is
oh my god,
a modernized version of this movie.
The Kevin Bacon movie?
Yeah. It kind of just left like a bad taste in my mouth. So this one was pretty like middle of the pack for me. And it's interesting. It's a cool story, but I also found myself like not fully engaged with it some of the time. There were some humorous moments, though. I don't know if they were really intentionally humorous, but they were kind
running.
of humorous.
The pants running are my favorites. He's like singing along to a an old nursery rhyme, and it's just pants just like running across the screen.
Yeah.
Is it on to me?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I really like this movie. I'm pretty sure I'm the one who put this on the list. I watched it one time when I was a little bit younger, but this is my first time going back and rewatching it. I liked it more on a second time, actually, just because I like the idea of like, this guy who's this, really brilliant scientist, but it's kind of like, Henry Frankenstein in Frankenstein, where he has this brilliance to him, but in order to do something good, he slowly starts losing his mind over time. With Frankenstein, it's power. With the Invisible Man, it's literally this toxic chemical he created that is making him slowly lose his mind, as well as lose the rest of his body where you can't even see him. And that connection I really like. The towards the end where he kills his would-be assistant is scary because he's talking about like, I'm gonna let you off this cliff, you're gonna break your neck, and then the car is gonna be set on fire, and he just boom, like takes the car off the cliff and it rolls, and it's terrifying. The effects I think are really good. The invisible, the way they're able to use like the floating glasses and the floating coat and things like that, I think were really cool. Claude Rains is amazing. Like he has this kind of dooming presence and this voice that is really haunting that I really love. So this is not my favorite, but it's definitely in my top 3.
This one is definitely interesting to see, the original Invisible Man, because it's one that I thought I had already seen, because Carrie and I watched the original The Fly, and I confused the two, and I was like, I think we already saw that, and Carrie was like, we didn't. I was like, oh, maybe I thought it was The Fly, or I thought it was The Invisible Man. And so I'm glad we finally got around to this, because I really love the Elizabeth Moss, Lee Winnell Invisible Man, and I like to see how different this is, but also kind of similar, but actually pretty different. And then Carrie brought Apollo Man, which does give me similar vibes, except Hollow Man is terrible, and I don't think this is terrible, because Hollow Man has a lot of like really gross, like, sexism and like sexual like assaults and stuff in it. It's just like every like 10 minutes there's something going on where someone's like being like a perv and trying to like touch somebody, and I'm just like this. And then there's like unnecessary animal murder, and I'm like, I hate this movie. I hate this movie, dude. But The Invisible Man, I actually like. I think is really good. Not my favorite, but I like how it starts where he's already invisible. You don't have to go through the whole stuff of him trying, because like if it was made today, well, I guess it has been made today. If they were going to make that movie specifically and not a movie about, because this one's about the Invisible Man, but about the technology, but also about who the Invisible Man affects, because it's Elizabeth Moss's story in the new one. This one, it is the Invisible Man's story, and he is already invisible, starting to go insane. And at first, it's like he wants to become visible, and he's trying to work on doing that. And then he goes into, I want to like kill the world. And it's just like, what the hell?
All about power.
And it gets really cool. I like a lot of the effects. There's some really great effects that they use, and ways of showing, that he's there, but invisible. And then some of the effects look really bad. But it's for like a really early movie, it's totally excusable. And it's just really cool to see how he operates, and when he talks about like, you need to get me a blanket because it's going to be cold out there when I'm naked, and stuff. And it's just really funny. And it's actually like a comedy. So there's a lot of like really like darkly funny bits to it. and stuff. And I really like, like how the townspeople are going about like trying to like find them and stuff, and like there's just you know all this stuff.
The
And
ending is
I
really
like.
good too.
I was about to say, yeah, I particularly like the ending where he kind of learns that he was going crazy, and he becomes visible again. It's like really crazy. You get to see like his like his skeleton manifesting back, and then
That
him.
didn't look that bad, actually.
It didn't. It looked kind of cool. And then right when he gets back, that's when he dies because he's been mortally wounded.
Yeah.
Because he was insane. And I don't know. This is definitely one I want to return to, but I like to see like kind of the evolution of this story. Kind of like Frankenstein. I want to watch other adaptations of that as well. But yeah, that's why we went through to look at a lot of these earlier ones, because a lot of years that we would make like lists of horror movies that we're going to watch for Halloween, we would typically just revisit a lot of ones that we saw. And so now we're watching some that I've seen a couple of these before, but most of them were new to me, and it's very exciting. And so now we're about to go to the 1940s. And I don't know, do you guys want me to just announce what those movies are so people can watch along with us?
Yeah, you can.
So I already showed the slate, but I will go through the ones that we're going to be watching are The Ghost Breakers, The Devil Bat, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. There's actually a lot of those, but we're going with the 1941 one. Cat People. I think there's multiple Cat Peoples as well. We're going with the 1942 one. Dead of Night, which I think is supposed to be a really good like anthology film, like one of the original anthologies.
Ooh.
And then Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, which I have never seen and I've always wanted to. So I'm very excited to get to all of those. And we've actually watched a couple already, but that's the name of the game.
Our ranking of these movies.
Yep, that's right. I almost forgot. Thank you, Hunter. So let's go ahead and go through our rankings. Hunter, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I'm just going from 6 to 1.
Okay, yep. Just go through your whole one, then I'll go through mine.
Yep. All right, so 6, I have White Zombie. 5, I have M. 4, I have Dr. X. 3, The Invisible Man. 2, Frankenstein. And 1, Freaks.
I thought I would have this all prepared. Okay. Letterbox is messing up for me. I could definitely tell you where everything is, though. So let me pull it. Carrie, go ahead if you have it ready.
My number 6 is White Zombie. My number 5 is Dr. X. My number 4 is Invisible Man. My number 3 is Frankenstein. My number 2 is Freaks. And my number 1 is M.
Ooh.
Nice. Okay. Mine was, I think, a little similar. My number 6 is White Zombie. My number 5 is Dr. X. My number 4 is The Invisible Man. My number 3 is Frankenstein. My number 2 is M, and my number 1 is Freaks. Freaks, M, and Frankenstein, I think, are all on the same level. But I would put Freaks and M just slightly above Frankenstein, and Freaks just slightly above M. They're all so good. So
so for me, I put M at 5 just because I'm missing like a huge chunk of it. So
makes sense, yeah. And these all might change, but that's how they are now, and we're glad to have watched them. And now we're going to go move on to the 40s. So please, like this video, subscribe to it, check out our next videos in the series if you want to go along with us all the way to 61. Join us with our live Halloween discussion on October 31st. That'll be really, really fun. Hunter, go ahead and close us out, please.
All right, guys. And remember, we are doing the opposite of this. We started in the 2020s of the best horror movies bracket. Now we're on to the 70s. So more of those will be on the channel. So if you guys did enjoy this, please hit the like button, subscribe. Welcome to Primetime. Remember, stay scared.